Hello everybody, welcome back. In this session we will talk about attacks on basic and digest authentication, and we will have some practical examples. But first, let's see what's wrong with basic and digest authentication. The first and the most dangerous issue is the credentials. The credentials sent in plain text or basic encoding in basic auth and in weak hash which is MD5 in digest auth. The second issue is that the credentials sent to the server with each request. The browser caches the credentials for UX purpose, but in the backstage, the browser or the client keeps sending the credential to the server with each request. The third issue is that in most cases, developers don't add any protection layer with basic auth. There is no protection against brute force or rate limit or any other REST API protection. So let's start with the first attack, which is man-in-the-middle attack. I think you are already guessed the attack when you saw that it uses only base64 encoding to send the data to the server. For those who are not familiar with man-in-the-middle attack, it basically has a hacker hijack the connection and put himself between you and the endpoint or website you are requesting, so he can listen to the traffic and modify it if he wants. So in this type of authentication, if it's used without SSL connection, you can perform man-in-the-middle attack against the victim and stole his credentials. Here is a screenshot from Wireshark. Wireshark is a network sniffing tool. As you can see, it easily catches the request with the full credentials. Okay, another example of attacks is wrong HTTP method. This is actually logic attack. This attack happens when the developer secures single or multiple HTTP methods with basic auth, and his actual code is accepting requests from other HTTP methods. To understand this attack, let's take an example. I have here a simple PHP server running. So let's request. Here is developer tell us that we can post this page. So let's try to post it. Here we use perp and let the set is on. Okay. So let's refresh the request again. Here, perp catches the request. So let's try to modify the request to post request, and let's forward it. Okay. Here we find the dialog of basic authentication. So we know that the developer is allowing GET request to this URL, but in post request he protected with basic auth. But luckily for us, this is an indicator that he are maybe not protecting other methods as well. So let's try to manipulate it. Cancel here, and let's try again. But this time, let's instead of post, let's make it boot. Boot request is behave like post request, so we can add body to the request, and let's forward it. Here, as I say, we bypass the basic authentication and we post it to this page, and here is our payload. This is because developer is already protecting his code against post requests and allowing other HTTP methods. So we used another HTTP method which is post request, and it's behave like post request and make our request. To understand it, let's look at developer code. Here we can find that he is check the server request method. If it posts, he shows us the dialog for basic authentication and halts the connection. But if it's not post request, he continue to make the logic of the application. So our request method wasn't post, it was put request, but in his code he are getting our payload or data from the post request we made it with put request. Okay, let's talk about another attack, which is brute force attack. As we said, basic OS don't provide any protection against brute force attack. It don't have any rate limit or spike policies, so it leaves it to the developer to implement his own protection. And in most cases, developers don't care and leave it open. Let's have some examples about how to perform a brute force attack against basic authentication endpoint using perp. Okay. First, let's see the endpoint that we want to exploit. Let's forward it. Here we say that basic authentication, but actually we don't know the credentials, so we need to brute force it. Okay, here is an HTTP history. Here is our request, and here is the authorization basic, and here is our wrong credentials. But we need to brute force it, so we will send it to the intruder here, and in position we need to define which parameter we want to brute force it. So in this case we want to brute force these credentials in authorization header, so we add this parameter, and when we say payload type, we choose custom iterator, and in position 1 here we add list for our list to brute force. This is the user position for user. We are using perp free version, so we can't add lists outside lists. But if you have the professional version of perp, you can add a list to brute force. But for proof of concept, let's add some users. Let's add user 0, user 1, user 2. This is just a list to perp use to try to brute force